taking in the breaking news from Tom Pelissero about 10 minutes ago. Dan Quinn informed interested teams he is staying with the Cowboys. Quinn was a top candidate for the Cardinals head coaching job and also interviewed with the Colts and Broncos, but his heart is in Dallas and he wants to win a Super Bowl there, tweeted Tom Pelissero. Brian, I've been noticing you working your phone a lot there in the break. What have you managed to learn about this story?
I'm trying to kind of figure this out, that maybe he was getting the word that he wasn't going to get one of these jobs. And so that he just decided that, you know what, if it's not going to happen, let's go ahead and kind of get this taken care of.
Same thing happened last year.
Yeah, I'm looking at right now. My guys around the league are telling me, they say it looks like Denver's committee wants either Sean Payton or D'Amico Ryans.
Okay.
There in Denver. Indy's owner, my guy said Indy's owner is lost. Might actually rehire Jeff Saturday.
Okay.
And another one said Arizona's looking at Brian Flores because you got a New England guy there. So it's kind of a tough market for him right now.
There's a lot of good coaches out there. A lot of very impressive individuals, maybe even on Dan Quinn's equal. What we know for sure is he is a magical fit with your team and your players. They all love him and rally around him. And the Cowboys getting to keep him, seriously increases your chances of having a great defense next year and being able to accomplish your goals, even if the offense isn't awesome. I don't know if you continue to have a good defense without Dan Quinn. It's difficult. They have some really great players on defense, like 2.5, 3 of them. And the way it all comes together, I think, is greater than the sum of its parts. And that is a result of Dan Quinn's unique talents.
I had a guy reach out to me. It's kind of interesting because we were talking about Dan and George Edwards and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this guy told me, he says, listen, Dan really doesn't have a problem with people. He would address in his own way if he felt they were off. Maybe George had a problem with McCarthy or vice versa.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is another interesting storyline. Does this mean Dan Quinn signed off on George Edwards being gone? Or as we reflect on the entire press conference, maybe George Edwards just got caught up in a numbers game. As Brian, I think you were dead balls on right leading up to the press conference in saying Jerry's uncomfortable with the size of this coaching staff. And that was one of the big takeaways from that is it's like an economic restructuring of the coaching staff mostly, with the departures mentioned last night, right?
Yeah, and the likelihood that some of those spots aren't going to be replaced.
Yeah, consolidated. I would say overall an uneasy Mike McCarthy. And I think the reason it was uneasy is he's just not comfortable spinning. He's not like a fancy city guy who's going to get up there and silver tongue you. He likes to shoot straight, and when he can't shoot straight, I think it makes him a little bit uncomfortable. And then, obviously, the huge takeaway when Fish asked, can you say that Kellen is back if he doesn't get an offer? Mike said, I don't want to play this game.
Yeah.
And, that is the biggest takeaway now as far as what does that mean for Kellen Moore, you think?
Look, there were two things. He did say he talked to Dan Quinn. That's why he was late to the presser. So he knew that Dan Quinn was coming back. This news came out immediately after it was done. And J-Ron Kurz tweeted this morning, thank you, God. There were a lot of people wondering what that meant. We had no idea, but I think that it's easy if you go ahead and just put the dots together. That probably meant maybe Dan Quinn had let his defensive players know, I'm coming back.
Yeah, Pelissero is one of he's the guy that did the Mike McCarthy, didn't he go up to
the barnyard?
Yeah.
So
He did Mike McCarthy a favor.
Right.
He didn't want to make that announcement while Mike McCarthy was on the mic.
And well done there, but he could have said, hey, Mike's coming, or Dan Quinn's coming back. But I do think not giving, not outright just saying, hey, Kellen Moore is returning as offensive coordinator. To me, listening to the way that he said everything, and he did sound emotional, I don't think Kellen Moore is coming back as offensive coordinator. And he said, we're going to keep evaluating everything. Coaches are being evaluated. He's going to meet with Kellen tomorrow, like you said. I don't anticipate Kellen Moore coming back as OC.
My gut is telling me that Mike's non-committal means he's gone.
Yeah.
But I can't be sure of that. It's like 80-20 right now in my mind.
Yeah, maybe I'm naive and I'm like 99-1 here that the Kellen Moore thing is inevitable now, that he will not be returning, because it's just, I feel like he would have given him a much stronger endorsement if that was the plan. So maybe he's really up in the air on it, and he says we still got to evaluate things, and so he really doesn't know.
Well, he's probably in a situation too about that with that offensive line coach. If it's James Campen or if it's Wells on staff or, whoever gets that. I mean, he's probably waiting to see what's happening with this offensive line coach. Maybe he does want that James Campen to be the coach. And so he's going to have to wait until now with Frank Reich. How long is that going to take? I mean,
and Campen's the O-line coach in Carolina.
Campen's the O-line coach. There was talk that if Wells, if who am I thinking of here? The guy that was going to
tight ends coach?
No, the guy
Wendell
that was
Wells?
the guy was going to get Steve
Wilks.
Steve Wilks.
Steve Wilks. Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
With
folks.
Carolina, yeah.
Yeah, if Steve Wilks was going to get the job, there was probably a likelihood that James Campen was going to stay. Now with Frank Reich, will Frank Reich want to bring his own offensive line coach guy in? Maybe somebody from the Colts. You never know in that situation.
Well, a lot of stuff, he said he was running late. He was meeting with Dan, and he'll give him due time, but hopefully we get an answer one way or another sooner than later, and we certainly did.
Well, he knew.
He says he feels good about where we are, though. And then he also said it's a time of year for evaluating everything, and it gets harder. I think you could tell, he was breathing hard when he was talking about having to let people go. I think it was a really difficult time for him, and there's human elements, especially for the coaches, letting go of coworkers and having to be the reason that entire families have to get up and move. It must be incredibly difficult this time of year for head coaches.
It is, but I'm sorry. This is what these guys, they sign up for this. And it's tough on families. It's absolutely. You might have 4 kids as a coach, and they're all born in a different part of the country, but this is what you sign up for. Families understand that. They don't have to like it. We're not trying to be mean about coaches or say things about coaches, but this is a profession. Nobody likes to be talked about in a bad way or anything like that, but I don't.
He did come after the media a little bit for talking about it. Yeah.
And I've been in that. I've been in those rooms. It ain't easy, but this is what you sign up for. This is your profession. You take the good with the bad. You move on to another location. Yeah. Your kids are all born in different cities. It makes it no easier. But man, come after us. Oh, it's a tough day. Yeah, it's a tough day. There's people that they're losing their jobs every damn day. They aren't making the money what coaches are. Yeah. Don't tell me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because, he's like, well, in our industry, people got to hear about this. Yeah. And they hear people talking about it. It's not fair to them. It's like, well, how fair is it for you to tell me how to do my radio show? Yeah. We have an obligation to keep our jobs by being entertaining or giving strong opinions or, and sometimes hey, this guy's not doing a good enough job coaching is the subject matter. We're obsessed with what you do for a living, and that obsession is what drives all the revenue, the billions of dollars that creates that pie that you get to feast on. So you can't have it both ways. You can't, and Jerry knows this. There's a sensitive vein running through this organization right now with what the media says, and I can't help but notice that tone picking up more and more.
Don't worry, Coach. We get to see everyone text and say we suck too.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
We're not making $350,000 for doing nothing.
Yeah,
speak for yourself.
That's what I'm saying. With Jerry's probably looking at those coaches that got let go and said, "What does he do? What's he responsible for? Can we do?" Mike even said it was stuff that was talked about last year. That could have been Joe Philbin too,
for sure.
There were some questions about Joe Philbin coming back. I think we've been fair about this stuff, but Mike, you need to tone that down, bro.
I think so.